and we are part of the Princeton Talks team. So thank you all for coming today.
I just want to say thanks to all the members of the board and the other members for making this possible, and thanks for you all for coming, even though it's really close to midterms. And thanks for coming to the first forum of this semester, and I hope you really enjoy all our amazing speakers and the presentations that they put together. And I also want to say that we started this forum, we just kind of jumped on the bandwagon, but we started this forum to basically facilitate the spread of really exciting ideas in the Orange Bubble. So I'm glad you guys came.
And of course, we couldn't do this without our four amazing speakers we had today, and we're always looking for more speakers for our forums. We have our next forum in April, so if either of you guys are ever interested in speaking about an idea you're passionate about, or you know someone who's done something really great, please let them know about this and tell them to look out for our emails. Cool, thank you. And with that, we introduce our first speaker, Cason Crane.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for coming, guys. Always nice to see that my boyfriend's 1/15 of the audience. But thanks for coming, I really appreciate it. I want to talk to you guys today about a project that I pursued on my gap year. I took 2 years off after graduating from high school before coming to Princeton. And on my gap year, I pursued a project called the Rainbow Summits Project. So my story starts actually well before I graduated from high school. It starts actually when I was born. This is a picture of me in 7th grade. And as you can see, I mean, it's pretty evident, I was kind of an outgoing, maybe flamboyant might be the right word, pretty flamboyant guy. And I knew I was gay from a very young age. And I have to say, I didn't wear necklaces to school every day. These are, it's a special occasion with Mardi Gras. I have to wear the beads. I've done that a little bit today. But, I was pretty outgoing, and even growing up here in Princeton, in an incredibly liberal, warm, accepting environment, I still faced bullying and harassment because of my sexuality. And from a young age, it made me realize that, I was one of the lucky ones, and that there were so many people in the United States who were in situations that were far worse, getting treatment much, much worse than me. So that was the foundational experience growing up as a young gay kid. And then, when I was in high school, I had a very close friend named Charlotte. And it's a picture of Charlotte. She's beautiful, smart, talented, friendly, social, an amazing, amazing girl. And unfortunately, in our junior year, she committed suicide. And her death was devastating to me. I had never, ever before experienced loss of really anybody. I had my grandparents, I had my parents, I had my siblings, I had all my friends, and I had never had someone close to me, really close to me, die before. And so I was a wreck. I didn't know how to react to this incredible tragedy. Especially because it was someone who has so much talent, so much energy, and now she wasn't in the world anymore. And so I did what my great choate education had taught me to do. I did research. I did some research on suicide, especially suicide among young people. And I discovered that suicide in the United States is the third leading cause of death for young people. And it accounts for 12.3% of deaths in the age category of 14 to 24. And that just shocked me. I mean, it just shocked me. I had no idea that this was such a big problem. And I thought, okay, I've got to do something about this. And then, a couple months after Charlotte's death, you guys may remember that Tyler Clementi, who like me was from New Jersey, 2 years older than I was, a young gay kid, he killed himself because of cyberbullying, as we call it, his sexuality. And then I just knew, okay, I cannot let one more day go by without doing something. And so, I went back on the internet and I found out that people in the LGBT community are 4 to 8 times more likely than their straight peers to attempt suicide. I thought, this has got to stop. I've got to try to make a difference. So I found an organization called the Trevor Project. And the Trevor Project was the only suicide prevention service doing work nationwide in the LGBT community. And I called them up and I said, hey guys, my name's Cason Crane, I'm 17 years old, and I really, really want to help. I really want to volunteer, I want to make a difference, I want to do something. I'm so passionate and energized about this cause. Like, I want to do something. Just give me a task. I can lift heavy things if you need me to. Anything. And they're like, Cason, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but unfortunately, you can't volunteer for us. I was like, what do you mean I can't volunteer for you? That makes no sense. They said, well, look, we deal with young people in very, very sensitive times, and so we actually have, for like liability reasons, a minimum age of 18. And I was crushed. I was like, oh my gosh, come on. Like, I want to make a difference. I want to do something. And they had just shut down one avenue that I thought existed for me to give back. So it forced me to think about other ways that I could give back that were outside of this paradigm that I thought was the only real way to make a difference. And so it took me a while, it took me about a year, but eventually I realized that I could actually combine my own unique interests and talents and do it in a way that allowed me to give back in a very unique way, contribute something that was really only I felt like I could contribute. And so I called this project that I came up with the Rainbow Summits Project. My idea was I would combine my passion for mountain climbing, totally unrelated to suicide prevention, with this cause, and climb the 7 summits, the highest mountain on each continent, in order to raise money and awareness for the Trevor Project. So the 7 summits, it's the highest mountain on each continent. It's kind of like the mountaineering equivalent of like the Grand Slam tennis tournaments or the Super Bowl or something. Very few people have done it, only about 350 people have done it, and it's really, really challenging. And so I started this project. The first thing I did was I went down. I'd already climbed one of the 7, so that's good. Not killing her off the list. Only 6 more to go. And I went down to South America and climbed Aconcagua. And Aconcagua was actually the highest mountain outside of the Himalayas. So it was a really good place for me to test my own climbing ability. You know, I knew that I loved climbing. I knew that I had some talent, but I didn't know if I could really do the 7 summits. So I went down and I summited it, and I didn't have any issues with the altitude. And so that was an important test to prove to myself, as well as to my parents, that I could actually do this project. And then, as I kept climbing, I also spent a lot of time talking with young people. This is actually a photo of this past December, because I've kept doing it, but I started from the very beginning talking to young people about what I was doing, about climbing, about the Trevor Project, about suicide prevention, about bullying, basically about anything they wanted to talk about. And so I was very lucky to be able to talk to kids all across the US and around the world about the project that I was pursuing. And that was really important. Honestly, the things I've learned, I mean, the conversations I had with some of these young people were so profound and incredible. I mean, it's really shaped my worldview. And then in terms of the climbing, I want to tell 3 quick stories of 3 different expeditions that I went on in this project, because I learned something different on each of these different climbs. So the first one was my first attempt on Denali. My first attempt because I ended up going back because I don't want to spoil the story, but I didn't summit. Well, that basically is the story. And so I've got a video to show you because it describes the conditions much better than my words can. So this video was actually taken by Nelson Collett, who's a sophomore, great guy. We were climbing Denali at the same time. So if you want to corroborate my story, you can just give him a call and he'll tell you his account of what happened. But basically, we got stuck at high camp, 17,200 feet in really bad weather. And I missed the video. So that feedback coming from the computer is not a technological glitch, that's the wind. It was crazy. I mean, I had never been in weather this bad before. And in this weather, we've stuck in this weather for 5 days. And we weren't thinking, oh, when's the weather going to break so we can go up to the summit? It was, when's the weather going to clear so we can go down safely? Because we were running out of food, we were running out of motivation. It was really, really tough. Eventually, the weather cleared a little bit. We hit a little gap in the weather, and we were able to sneak down safely back to the 14 camp and back to base camp. But I got off the mountain, and I called my parents, and I was like, guys, I didn't summit. Because I hadn't actually talked to them in a month. So I spent a whole month on the expedition. And I was crushed. Because, although that I had gone into this, of course not knowing whether I would be able to climb all 7 summits, I honestly believed that I would. And it didn't really, I never really thought, well, what if, you get a chance to climb the mountain and you don't actually summit? And so it was a really difficult time for me, I had to reflect on my goals and why I was doing it. And I decided that rather than think of it as, Cason getting to the top of this mountain, me reaching the highest point on the mountain, I thought of it as, how far can I go? How far can I push myself in the conditions that exist? Working as hard as I can. At what point will I get there? And so instead of thinking of it as how, whether I got to the summit, I was thinking of it as like how, whether I put in as much as I can give on each climb. And so, I decided to keep going with my project, even though I had this setback, even though I didn't know I could actually climb all of the 7 summits to the peak. And so I kept going to face my next challenge, which was Carson's Pyramid. Carson's Pyramid is one of the 7 summits, but it's actually only a third of the people who've done the 7 summits have climbed this one because it's so crazy. There are 2 mountains in Australia, Oceania, that people consider this the highest peak. This is one of them. And so to get to the mountain, you have to trek through a week of intense jungle. This is the type of river crossing. As you can see, this is a wet log, raging river, and this string here, this piece of wooden rope, is being held by somebody. It's attached to a tree on that end. It's being held by a person on this other bank. It's not even secured to anything. It was crazy. And I mean, really, honestly, the worst trekking I've ever experienced. And then you get to the mountain, and you're looking at this thing, and you're like, wow, that looks like a vertical rock face. Because it is. And I mean, it was crazy. And so the real challenge, the second challenge that I faced in climbing, was my fear of heights. Now, I know that it might not, you might not think, you might not think that it makes sense for a mountain climber to be afraid of heights, but I'm telling you, it's really true. I am terrified of heights. And that, you can actually see base camp down at the bottom. This is literally straight down. And so this is, so when you're climbing up a mountain, you're basically looking at the face, right? You're looking at the rock in front of you. You're not looking at the ground below you. But when you're going down, you actually have to confront the fact that you're like 5,000 feet up a vertical rock face. So this is a video I took on my GoPro traversing this ridge. I mean, I was out of my mind terrified, and I knew that if I was going to get down safely, I had to really overcome this personal challenge. And so the way that I did that was I put this strategy of breaking down this seemingly insurmountable obstacle, this just total fear of heights, into smaller ones. And what I did is I just looked at my feet, and I just placed one foot in front of the other until I got down from that ridge. And that taught me a really important lesson, that when I was faced with challenges that I thought I could not overcome, breaking them down into smaller, more manageable challenges enabled me to actually overcome them. And then, so eventually I made it to the summit and back down. And then the third story I want to share with you, the third challenge, is Mount Everest. So this is Mount Everest, is the black triangle in the back. And this is the Kubo Ice Wall, this is the base camp. And Everest is particularly challenging because of 2 reasons. The first is that it's a really long expedition. It's 2 months long. And the second is that it's really, really high. And the altitude is it can have crazy effects on people. But anyway, so I got to the base of Everest, and actually the most dangerous part of Everest is the lowest part. It's from base camp to Camp 1. And this is my team traversing the Kubo Ice Wall in the middle of the night, going up to Camp 1. And you can see that one of my teammates is crawling across a ladder, and he's looking down, like probably 400 feet into this massive crack. He's on this huge glacier, and that's a crack that goes all the way down. You can't even see the bottom. And that's pretty much what you're doing for like 10 hours until you get up to Camp 1. It's crazy. And the other thing is it's a frozen waterfall. So the ice is constantly moving at a rate of about 1 meter a day. And that's really fast, actually. When you think about these massive chunks of ice they don't have very solid bases, and then it's moving 1 meter a day, that ice could just collapse at any time, which is why we're climbing in the middle of the night when it's most stable. In any case, it was pretty scary. And then, like everyone, I make mistakes. This is one of them. So I didn't take good enough care of my feet. This is my pinky toe. I actually had, I popped the blisters, that's why it looks like this. But I had them, my broke both pinky toes. It was horrible, it was so painful. But I learned my lesson very quickly, and then eventually, we made it up on our final rotation up the mountain, up the Lhotse face, each of my teammates, very steep section of the mountain. And then up on summit day, this is looking into Tibet, and you can see the sun is starting to rise. This is very close to the summit. And then eventually, I made it to the summit at like 4:10 a.m. and took out the rainbow flag. It was actually the first time the rainbow flag was brought up to the summit of Mount Everest, which is pretty cool. Because as a gay person, it was pretty cool to take part in that. It was like a moment of intense pride for me. And then also, what was even more meaningful was what I took out of my bag next, which were prayer flags dedicated to the memory of young LGBT kids who had committed suicide. And I took out these prayer flags and I put them. You can kind of see it in the corner of the picture. But there's a big pile of prayer flags that other summiteers have left, dedicated to whatever cause they're passionate about. And so I left these prayer flags on the summit of Mount Everest, and it felt like I had summited this mountain with these invisible spiritual teammates, which was really, really moving for me. I honestly couldn't stop crying. I had to Photoshop this picture for 2 reasons. Number one, the tears that were frozen on my cheeks. Number two, the massive snossicle that was coming out of my nose. But other than that, it's all real. And so, after my successful ascent of Everest, I came back down to base camp, and I actually managed to fly back to Alaska and make it up to the summit of Denali a year after I had first attempted it, and I successfully completed the 7 summits. In summiting Denali, I became the first openly gay person to climb the 7 summits and the 5th youngest person ever. But the reason I was most proud was actually what the other things I accomplished. It wasn't, I was most proud, obviously, that I climbed the 7 summits, but I was more proud of the hundreds of conversations I had with young people all around the world. And also, I was really proud, actually, the most, my biggest accomplishment, I think, was I was able to raise $135,000 for the Trevor Project. And that was hard work. I'm telling you, mountain climbing is tough, but raising money was really, really hard work. To think that 2 years before, I had been a high school student trying to give back with no real avenues to do that. And then 2 years later, I was standing on the summit of Mount Everest, having found a way to combine my passions to give back. So what I want to share with you guys today, I'm just like all you guys. I'm 21, you guys are probably 20 or 21 or 22. And, we could honestly switch seats right now, and it would be, it would just be like reversed. It would be totally normal. You guys could all talk about something that you're passionate about. And so I don't want to feel like I'm preaching to you guys, because I learn so much from my friends every day. But I do feel like there's one thing that I want to share with you guys, and that's that I was able to discover through this project that if you're able to combine things that you don't think necessarily go together, like mountain climbing and suicide prevention, you might find that you can really achieve incredible things. And that, when I think about activism, if somebody had asked me, Cason, how do you feel about activism? Are you an activist? 2 years ago, I would have said, no way, and I do not want to be considered an activist. It kind of had this weird negative connotation in my family or my school. Who knows? It wasn't a positive word. Activists were like these crazy people who, always protested, didn't cut their hair and didn't use deodorant. It just had, for some reason, a negative connotation. But now, I've embraced my role as an activist. And that's because, I kind of totally shifted the way I think. Everyone should be an activist. Everyone can be an activist on some cause they're passionate about. And if we're all able to combine the things that we like to do with causes that we do care about, because everyone has a cause that they care about, if we're able to do that, our world is going to be a much better place. And here on Princeton's campus, people are doing that every day. There are some kids on campus, actually I'm one of them involved with this, who love to run crazy long distances and or do triathlons. And they've started doing for a good cause, Team U. You guys may have heard of it. Amazing, amazing initiative. And I was just, on Facebook the other day, and I saw that, one of my friends, or maybe more, I don't even know who started, I think it was Pam. She combined her love of cooking with her passion, for South American causes, and thus was created the Crooked Root Cafe. And so every day, we have classmates who are combining, in addition to all their classes and all their extracurriculars, they're combining their desire to bat with interests that they have. And so I would encourage all of you guys to go out there and do that. And so I want to close with one little anecdote. When I was first contemplating this project, when I was first really contemplating climbing in general, I was talking with this mentor of mine, this amazing climber named Lydia Brady, and she said to me, we were climbing in New Zealand, and she said to me, Cason, you like climbing, you're good at this, so when are you going to climb Everest? And I was like, what do you mean, I can't climb Everest? Is that a joke? She's like, Cason, are you kidding? You're strong, you're a good climber, you've got motivation, you're interested in it. When are you going to climb Everest? And so my question to you guys is, what's your Everest?